Hello, this is Mr. Vargas, and this is part one of my third tutorial. This tutorial is going to be called Meteor Mayhem. So I just want to quickly show you what you will have done by the end of today. So this is multi-parts, but by the end of today, you're going to have a spaceship that will move around the screen, and it will do that by following your mouse. So it's always pointing at your mouse. And notice we have some stars in the background, so we're going to add those as well. In future parts, we're going to add meteors that your spaceship will crash into. We're going to add a health bar that will deplete as you keep crashing into meteors, and then we'll add some type of collectible. And we'll do win and you win and game over screens depending on whether you run out of health or whether you collect all the collectibles. But for today, this is all you need to do. Spaceship that moves around the screen and follows your mouse. So let's get started. Go to My Games. We're going to click New Game. Wait a second to let the screen load. Empty project. Press OK. We're going to go to Settings. And we're going to name it Meteor. You could do a different name if you want. Meteor Mayhem is what I'll name it. And initials. Put your first and last initials. Gravity. Set that to 0. Leave the width and the height as is. Press OK. All right, so let's create our first level, or actually our first level is already created. Let's set the color of our first level. So since we're in space, you might want to go for a black background. I think I want a little color, so I'll just go with a very dark blue. Press OK. All right, now before I start adding my ship to my level and all the other components, I want to work on the background. So I don't have a background image, but I want to add objects to my background. Objects that are just static, they don't do anything, they just appear there. The ship doesn't collide, but they're just there. And this is important for this game because I actually tried to do this tutorial without the stars, and you couldn't tell that the ship was moving because it's a solid background. So the stars kind of give you a sense of movement. So to add the stars, we're going to go to Layers, we're going to go to Background. And then we're going to click anywhere, hit create. And notice that this window, usually when we hit create, it has like properties and physics and behaviors. There's none of that here because this is a background object. It's just static. So let's name it star, edit sprite. I want to delete this image, so I always like just increasing my grid size and using the erasure tool. I just feel like that's a pretty quick way to erase it. And then I usually like to set the grid size back to a smaller amount so that it's easier to do more detailed drawings. So I picked the pencil tool, I selected yellow, and we're going to draw a little star. You can draw a star shape if you want. I'm just going to go with something pretty simple. I'll press OK. All right, so we have our star. Now we're going to clone it, and we're going to put some stars around the world. Now, here's a really important part. So I've put stars inside of the window that you see when the game starts, but I actually want you to put some stars outside of the window as well, because later on, when we code our camera, we're gonna allow the ship to leave that first initial screen because we want the player to explore this world looking for the collectibles, and it wouldn't really be fun if everything was just on one screen. So just add some stars. Yeah, as far as how far out to go, I would keep it like under maybe 7, but it doesn't really matter. You're gonna set that later on. So if you have one that's a little far out, you can that's fine. We can take that into account when when we implement the camera. So I'm gonna hit done. And now we're done with our background layer. So let's go back to the game world layer. And we are going to add our ship. So I'm going to click in the middle of the screen. We're going to hit create. And we're going to name it ship. And then we're going to, let's set the physics. We'll set it to movable, take off affected by gravity, and also set the forward direction to up. The reason is because I'm going to draw the ship so that it's pointed up I guess you don't have to do it that way, but that's just how I did it. It just made more sense to me. So let's go back to properties and let's click edit sprite to draw our ship. We'll do my little erasing maneuver, increase the grid size, and then we'll decrease the grid size to be able to draw our ship. And let's pick a nice gray color. And you can have fun with this. This is your design. Whatever you think looks good. You can do like a flying saucer type thing if you want. All right. It looks a little uneven, that's fine. Let's see, let's pick another color to do the fill. Maybe I'll do like a little window cockpit kind of thing over here. Maybe you could do some fire out the back if you want, some missiles on the side. It's up to you. Don't take too long on this because this is not the main point of our game yet. But, all right, that's fine for me. So I'm going to press OK. We got our little spaceship. And now it's time to code it. So let's click on behaviors. And the first code we're going to do is the code for movement. So we want the ship to always be moving at a velocity of 5. So to do that, we are going to use an always block. So always. And the velocity, we want it to be 5. So we need a number block. And then we're going to need a velocity block. So velocity is under components. So always is under triggers. Number is under logic and math. And actually, no, velocity is under properties. And then in the properties, we'll find velocity. All right. So we want so always we want to set the number 5. So make sure you set that to 5 to the forward velocity. So now we've used X and Y before, but this time we're using forward. So that right there will just get our ship moving, and we'll always keep it moving forward. But now we need forward to change. We want forward to be set to wherever the mouse is. So we're going to, excuse me 1 second. We are going to add a few blocks. So let's add a mouse move. So this is under triggers. So every time the mouse moves, this is going to trigger. And we're going to use 2 expression blocks. So we have one here and one here. And the reason we need these is because we need to calculate the position where the spaceship should point. And the problem with this is that we have 2 positions we're working with. We're working with the position of the camera, which is this point. And then we also have the position of the ship, which is how far the ship is from the camera. So you need to add the X position of the camera, because remember, we're going all around this world. The X position of the camera to the X position of the ship, and that will tell you where the ship should be pointed. So we're adding. So inside of expression, we're gonna do A plus B. So something's gonna go in as A, something's gonna go in as B, right? So A is gonna be the X of the mouse, B is gonna be the X of the camera. And then we're gonna add these all up, and then we'll use it for something in a little bit. All right, and then you're gonna do the same thing over here, A plus B. So press OK. So we have 2 expression blocks, and the X of the mouse is gonna go over here, and the Y of the mouse is gonna go over here. And now we're going to add a camera. So camera object is under components, I believe. Yep, components. And there's a couple things we have to change inside of camera. So for the first thing, let's set the boundaries. So boundary, right now, the camera only will stay within this blue boundary, but we want to go outside of that. So we're going to hit minus. And we want to try, so if you notice, look at the stars from our previous step. You want to get all the stars in there. And then the same thing with the right. You want to just extend it. And then also with the bottom. Well, actually, you have to go up for the bottom. And then for the top, you go minus. All right. So that's the first thing I wanted to do. So I'm going to press OK there. So I've set my camera boundaries. Now, you have 4 outputs over here. This output will give you the X, and this Y, the second output will give you the Y. Now, if you want to read up on that, like how did I figure that out, you have to click on this "What's this?" and it opens up the documentation and explains it, what the outputs are over here. So, but I'm not gonna do that. You'll take my word for it. So the first out is X. So we're gonna bring that up here so that it can be added to the X from the mouse move. And then the second one we're gonna bring over here, because the second one is the Y of the camera. That's gonna be added to, again, to the Y of the mouse. All right. Now, the last thing we need to do is this eval. Like this operation doesn't just run on its own. Something needs to activate it. So one way to do this is this X of your mouse, just connect it to eval. So basically, anytime the X position of the mouse changes, it will recalculate this. And we're gonna do the same thing with Y. We're gonna connect it to eval. Okay, so these two things will generate the X and the Y of where we want the ship to point. So we need one more block, and it's under components. We haven't used this yet. It's called the point at block. This tells our ship where to point at, and we're going to just connect the first expression block to X, the second expression block to Y. All right, and that is pretty much it. So let's test our game and make sure that it works. So if you notice, my ship follows wherever my mouse is. In the background, it's calculating this position with the expression blocks. And that's it. That's it for part 1. All right. Thank you.